We are live to talk the San Francisco 49ers, kind of some injury reports. All right, Christian McCaffrey, Brandon Ayuk, Trent Williams. What are the risks with those guys playing, if any at all? Ricky Pearsall, just how lucky was he with surviving his gunshot wound? And we're going to give out some preseason, I say preseason, but preseason, all right, awards. We got Rookie of the Year. We have Offensive Player of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Team MVP, Team Expectations, all that and more with a guest of mine. Can't wait. Keep it locked right here. Let's go.
Intercepted. It is picked off by Crocker over midfield. He'll run it all the way into the end zone. Touchdown.
Crock Talk TV podcast. Peace. Welcome to another episode of the Eric Crocker Show. I'm your host, former NFL and AFL defensive back, Eric Crocker, and I'm excited. As you guys can see, the vibes are a little more up now. I've kind of just been going through the offseason. You talk San Francisco 49ers every day, and then all of a sudden, boom, it's here. I don't know if anyone was as excited watching the Thursday night football game as I was last night. My wife came running down the stairs to tell me something. I look at her, I'm smiling. She's like, "Why are you smiling?" I said, "Babe, I'm just happy to be watching some real football." All right, so I'm turned up. I'm excited. And it was fun watching not just a good football game, but two teams that I enjoy watching, the Baltimore Ravens, the Kansas City Chiefs. You know, I remember last year they opened up the season with the Chiefs versus the Detroit Lions, and I'm like, I don't really want to watch the Detroit Lions. Not opening game. And people are like, "Oh, well, the Detroit Lions, they end up winning." It's not even about who won or lost. It's about who you want to watch to start the season. And watching the Baltimore Ravens, watching Kansas City Chiefs, I think it was fun. You saw some good things. You saw some poor things. You saw some mistakes. I think you got a taste of everything, but you also got a little bit of a taste of why I think the Chiefs are the favorites to repeat. All right, so we're going to discuss a little bit of that as it ties into San Francisco 49ers and our outlook on them. But first, I want to thank everybody for tuning in today. Make sure, if you haven't already, download the app or go to underdogfantasy.com. The show is sponsored by that. All right, so help your brother out right here. All right, go to underdogfantasy.com or download the app. And when you sign up, it's going to ask you. I just helped somebody set up the other day. They're like, "Oh, wow, we'll put your promo code in." Yeah, fool, put my promo code in. Promo code Crocky. All right, CROCKY. I'm a little amped up. If I'm seeing maybe even more amped up, not just because football season is here. I coach high school football. We got a game tonight, home game against Clovis West. We lost our first game. Missed opportunities. We turned the ball over 4 times in the red zone against a team that's been in back-to-back state championship games. You can't do that. All right. Hopefully the 49ers and other teams don't do that. But anyways, I'm amped up. I'm excited. And I think I'm even more excited to bring on today's guest. I wish I had like a radio. We have it when we bring on Nick Winkler, Locked On 49ers. You guys, make sure you guys tune into that. We come at you 5 days a week. You got audio, you got YouTube, you got, Spotify, Apple, all that stuff. But Nick Winkler, he was on like some game shows. So we have like sounds when we have him on that we play, and they're like, "Nicholas Winkler, come on down." Anyways, I can't do that with this guest, but she needs no introduction. We have the lovely Coach Dezi in the building. Coach Dezi, how you doing?
Hey, I'm doing so much better now that the NFL season has kicked off. I'm ready to go. So good to see you. It's been a summer without Crock, so it's good to see you, man. Good hat.
Yeah, it has been, and me. There's a lot of people, they like creating content throughout the whole offseason. I feel like I have to do it enough with Locked On 49ers. So for me, I don't want to make up a bunch of storylines. Like, let's talk about the things that matter most. And I think we have to start with some of the, I don't even want to say injury concerns, but things that have happened around injuries and maybe things that potentially can pop up. But I think we'd be remiss to not start with Ricky Pearsall. As you guys all know, unless you've been living under a rock, 49ers receiver Ricky Pearsall was shot through the chest 8-9 days ago now in San Francisco. during an attempted robbery, and a lot of the details were kind of murky starting off. He got shot in the arm, then he got shot in the chest, and it went through his arm. And I saw somebody was like, "Oh, he's in critical condition." Like there were all these things. I'm like, let's just wait and kind of hear about it. And we eventually talked about it on Locked On 49ers. But I guess first, just your thoughts on hearing that potentially, because at first it wasn't confirmed that it was him, but you're hearing, oh, Ricky Pearsall got shot. Your thoughts when you first heard that news?
The kid can't catch a break. I mean, it's been a rough start to his career. And the first thing so that was probably my initial thought. But then right after that, I'm a mom. I have 2 boys. And my first thought was to his family who's not with him. Like, I can't imagine. I don't even know if they got the call before the news broke, right? So you're hearing this probably when everybody else is hearing this potentially. And your son is in some state, with a gunshot wound. I mean, that's just devastating. I can't even imagine what that's like as a parent. I'd hope to never know what that's like. But it is a miracle. It is a miracle that he is even standing, that he's even breathing, that he's even out of the hospital. I mean, there's so much to this that I'd love to dig into, but that's my initial thoughts on when the news broke.
All right, so first let's start with where he got shot, right? Or just no. Let's start with his recovery. So Ricky Pearsall was released from the hospital a day later, and I saw on my timeline a lot of people saying, "Wow, like how is he released from the hospital a day later?" I unfortunately, right, but maybe it's because of where I grew up, Stockton, California. I know a lot of people that have been shot, and the hospital stay varies for a lot of various reasons. So I know some people that were released later that day, right? You get shot early, kind of later that day, they were released, or they stay overnight just for, little checkups and things like that. Then they're released the next day. I've also seen some people that were in for a much longer time, whether it was weeks because they had surgery, the recovery from that, and they're in there a lot longer. So what do you know about just the way the bullet went through, and is that something that made it to where he was able to be released much sooner? Or are there typically, if there's no like damage to an artery and stuff, and we'll get to that and like kind of the luck around that, but if there's no kind of damage and it just goes straight through, is it normal to see people released the next day?
There's nothing normal about this in my eyes. I mean, listen, for those of you who maybe don't know me, I'm a physician assistant. I've been practicing medicine for almost, let's just say over 20 years. Part of my career has been in the emergency room. And so I've seen a lot of different scenarios, a lot of different traumas and things like that. A gunshot wound to the chest is something that, I mean, when you hear that, you're like, okay, where in the chest? Critical condition? Is he collapsed a lung? Did it hit an artery? Did it hit the heart? So they came out pretty quickly with saying it was the right side of the chest. And even still, I was like, I texted another podcaster. I was like, okay, he's probably going to have a chest tube. He's probably going to be in the hospital. Like, even once he gets through that, then you have to worry about secondary issues like blood clots or pneumonia. And then the video circulated of him walking to the ambulance, walking to the stretcher. And I thought, I couldn't even explain it. I was like, okay, One, I was like, all right, he's good. He's okay. He didn't look like he was any acute distress. He didn't look like he was trying to labor to breathe. But it was concerning. You see a gunshot wound, and I'm like, did it really get him? Was it grazed? Because you saw a little bit of bleeding, some blood or whatever here on the right chest. And I couldn't really appreciate anything beyond that, but there really wasn't active bleeding. I'm like, okay, maybe it was just a skin. So sometimes you can get where the bullet kind of grazes the chest and you get more of like a skin wound versus anything else. But over and over, I saw confirmation that it went through the chest with the exit wound out the back. And I'm baffled. And one of my favorite shows is called Untold Stories of the ER. And if anybody else has watched that show, one, you may have to have a strong stomach because they really show some things in there. But there are some things that have happened where you're like, that person should be dead. Like that person should not be alive. And I think that's a story that we're looking at here with Ricky Pearsall. If you're shot on the right side of the chest, I don't know how he doesn't collapse a lung. I don't know how he doesn't have surgery. I don't know how it misses it. You still have ribs. You have ribs. Like, did you not crush a rib when it went through? The space between the ribs is not big. So you're telling me he lucked out and got a shot between the ribs. And I want to see the x-ray. I'm dying to see, just from a medical perspective, how he got away with being able to be discharged the next day, already be in the weight room. Now they said he was in the weight room. I don't know that he was actually physically.
I just saw a video. He's actually on the field throwing the ball around a little bit, or like tossing the ball up. So
baffling to me. I mean, obviously it went through muscle, right? I mean, you went through your pecs. I mean, this is just mind-blowing. I mean, praise to God.
J617 says hearing it was a 2% chance of living is insane. I actually have a picture of his chest here that I'm going to pull up, and we'll see if we can show exactly where the injury happened. But from my understanding, he has prayer hands right here. Are you guys able to see where I'm circling? So right here, he has prayer hands on both sides, but there's right side of his chest. So there's an angel here, there's prayer hands here, and they said it was about 2 inches lower than the prayer hands. So I'm assuming that's right around here. I mean, that's a, when I was thinking, oh, he got shot in the chest and it went through, I was thinking kind of maybe more up here. Not saying that would be better, but to know that, I mean, this is maybe the more dense part of your upper body, and it went through this area.
Yeah, so on the right side of the chest, you have different lobes of the lung. So it's not all confluent together. You have segmented sections of the lung on that right side. And it's, I guess, possible that it went through the lobes, so it didn't actually hit, the bundle of the actual alveoli and the lung itself. It went between the 2 lobes is the only thing I can think of. And again, also went between the ribs. I mean, this is a medical miracle, guys. And he's on our team. And I got to think that this is not just a good luck for him, but maybe a good omen for our season, because this guy, this is inspiring. It's no surprise that Trent Williams came forward and said, hey, this is why I'm signing back up. I mean, obviously, how do you not, when your teammate goes through something like this and comes out blessed and on the other side of it?
And here's the video. Shout out to David Lombardi. All right, Lombardi posted this video, if you guys could see it right now, of Ricky Pearsall walking and playing around with the football. So Pearsall said he could play against the Jets, which obviously sounds like wild.
Okay, so here's the thing I will warn against. Sometimes when there's a traumatic event, people just want to jump right back into their lives. And the traumatic injury is never addressed from an emotional and mental standpoint. I do know that the 49ers do have resources that have been offered to him. I do hope that he takes it, because trauma that's not dealt with now can pop up in different stages later down the road in your life. And this is, I mean, yes, he's alive. Yes, this is the best possible outcome, but it doesn't mean it still isn't. There's a situation of emotional injury that's been had that needs to be dealt with and resolved. So I do hope he does take up the offerings for those resources.
Yeah, and again, that video right there was from David Lombardi, covers the 49ers. We got a comment here in the chat says, I think he said he could play against the Jets, but Jennifer Lee Chan also reported that he has a flesh wound, so they don't want him to sweat and contaminate aside from the mental health issues. So, makes a lot of sense there. Shout out to everybody in the chat right now. We're going to get into a little bit more, injury concerns, and we have to start with something that is very familiar with me, or we'll see how familiar it is. But Christian McCaffrey, it has been reported that he has a calf injury, and then they kind of tagged the Achilles with it. Now, for someone like me, I've been dealing with, and I just found like my body. I don't know if my body's breaking down or what. I got the labrum issue that I'm still working through, but whatever. I got this like cyst on my hand. I don't know if you guys can see. I have like this huge lump right here, and they're like, "Oh, well, we can cut it out." I'm like, "Oh, I'll just leave it." I got all kind of stuff going on, but I also have what they're saying is Achilles tendonitis. Like every morning I wake up for about 10 minutes. It takes my heel to kind of warm up before I stop limping. Like I'm walking very stiff, very gingerly to start off, and then eventually it loosens up and it's like, oh, okay, I'm good. There's no limp. And the doctor was like, oh yeah, you have Achilles tendonitis. And I was like, man, luckily I went to the doctor. I only went because I've been running a lot more. I'm trying to prepare for a 10K run, and then I want to get into maybe a half marathon. So I just ran like 10 miles the other day. He's telling me the only way I can fix this is if I just stay off of it and like do these stretches and these different things. I'm like, do you know who I am? Like, stay off of it. I'm in the gym every day lifting. I'm running every day. I'm coaching. I'm having to demonstrate. There's no way I can stay off of it. Hopefully, it just doesn't hurt me. I don't want it to be a long-term issue. Maybe it'll come off season. I'll end up, doing something come off season and like whatever. Anyways, do we have to worry about anything like this with Christian McCaffrey? Could there be some calf, Achilles tendonitis? This is not the first time he's had a calf issue. He was having a calf issue last year. He was going through that. What can we expect from a guy who is one of the most important pieces of the San Francisco 49ers offense?
Yeah, I think, every 49er fan, when they heard or read that news, literally clinched, right? We all were like, what? We're still coming off of the traumatic injury for Greenlaw in the Super Bowl, right? We all witnessed an actual Achilles tear right there in the Super Bowl. And of course, with our Christian McCaffrey, the NFL's MVP last year, we do not want to see this happen to him, right? That would be devastating. So I think they do need to tread lightly here. I think anytime you have inflammation in the Achilles area, you are at risk for tear. So Mr. Crocker, I don't want you to just think you're 16 and run out and try to, race one of your kids that you're training or whatever and not get that warm up in. We're in the ages that we have to definitely get that warm up in before we start running or doing something explosive.
I had an adult league basketball game, and you said make sure you spend a lot of time like warming up, stretching out the Achilles. And it was funny because I don't think I had told you I was having like these Achilles issues, and you had mentioned that, and I'm like, damn, like she's spot on. And then I was like late because anybody that knows driving from Stockton to Fairfield on the Highway 12 is like just a two-lane highway, and there's always like an accident. So I ended up showing up like 1 minute before tip off, and I was not able to warm up. And in my head, all I'm seeing is Coach Dezi. Like Coach Dezi would be very disappointed. I'm not about to warm up right now.
Listen, let me tell you. So my husband, at work, they had some sort of like team building, and they decided it was going to be basketball, which my husband sprained his ankle so many times. And I just looked at him like, really? We're not over that yet, that you haven't learned? He's like, no, it's going to be good. It's going to be good. So what happens? They get out there, and there's a guy who's actually a little bit younger than, probably about 10 years younger than my husband. And they go out there, and he was some stud, played D2, D1, I don't know, some kind of basketball. He's this guy comes out there, doesn't warm up. He did an Aaron Rodgers within the first 90 seconds of getting on that basketball court. Jump shot went to go up. There goes his Achilles, and he had to have surgery. So, guys, if you are anywhere close to like 35 and up, 33 and up, please get your warm-ups in. We're not about that life anymore. So yes. So in terms of Christian McCaffrey,
real quick, we got a comment in the chat says the Madden curse is real. Now he's talking about Christian McCaffrey being on the cover of Madden, and I will say that maybe the Madden curse is real, but I don't know if this has anything to do with Christian McCaffrey because again, this calf injury has been something that he's been dealing with since last season. So what can you tell us about that?
So the minute that I heard about the calf, the first thing that did come to my mind was Achilles, but I didn't want to, you guys know, I think by now, those who know me, I'm superstitious. So I'm like, I'm not putting that out in the universe. I'm not going to say it. But it's now been revealed that it is Achilles is something to be concerned of there. I don't know. He is someone that is so conscientious about his body and prepping appropriately. He does these track dynamic warm-ups. He does a lot of plyos. He does breath work. He is the guy that I would be like, he is so prepared to prevent injuries. So I'm already nervous that if he's coming into the season with already an inflamed area that he hasn't been able to work through in an off season, I'm worried about his sustainability through 17 games in this upcoming season. I'm not going to lie. Definitely concerned.
Oh man. So that's tough to hear right there. He spent some time out, right? Like the 49ers basically gave him training camp off. Like, all right, look, you just go to the side. He said, hey, if there was a game tomorrow, like I can play. And I understand because I feel like if there was a game tomorrow, I could play. Would I be my 100% self? I would say absolutely not. I can feel it. And when I'm out there and I'm doing drills with my kids, a lot of times because I'm trying to, stay in shape, I run with them. I don't quite have the same kind of burst or the same kind of speed. And I'm not, he has like professional medical staff taking care of him. But do you foresee like this being an issue with his performance at all? Or do you say, you know what, we will see the Christian McCaffrey that we all expect to see?
I would hope that when they clear him, they're clearing him in full conscience that he is 100%. And then I would say, yes, I would expect him to be him. But until then, this is going to affect his performance. A running back, especially of his caliber, he's so nimble. He's so quick. All those cutting movements that he has to do, basically his whole job depends on his Achilles. I mean, think about that.
Right.
It's just running on your toes, cutting through, getting through this, hole in the line. These are things that he is supposed to do as a running back. So I can't stress it enough. I have concerns. I'm still PTSD from Greenlaw's injury, and let's keep him safe. Let's do the smart things. And my hope is in the staff there. I need the staff to understand that they need to know who Kyle Shanahan is. Like if you clear him, Kyle's going to run him every drive that he possibly can. So do not clear him unless he is 100% good to go. And I trust that he is. Something I've said in another podcast is not only is it up to the medical staff and the training staff to make sure they give the programming, but it's up to the patient. It's up to the patient to then take that and do with it what's supposed to be done, right? How many times have we been given, physical therapy? Okay, great. You go to PT a couple of times, you come home and you stop, right? No, you're supposed to continue with those exercises.
I did that with my shoulder. I didn't want to tell you that.
I wasn't going to call you out. But so it's also dependent on that too. But Christian McCaffrey is the guy that I would have confidence in that if they say you need to do X, Y, and Z, he's doing X, Y, and Z and A, B, C. He's doing whatever he can to get back. So we're gonna say hopeful, guys. We're gonna say prayers. We're gonna just, again, let's keep the positive vibes going. But I am concerned.
All right, and I think there's more to be concerned with than just Christian McCaffrey. Obviously, a huge pivotal part of this offense, but you have two other players who held out and weren't a part of training camp. Now, full disclosure, I did spend time in the NFL, and there were certain steps that the NFL takes, how they put in place to build your body up to prepare for a regular season. It starts in the offseason with OTAs. OTAs just isn't something where you show up and none of this really matters. No, like there's a process behind it, and it starts in phases. The first part of the phase, you're in the weight room for an hour a day. You're on the field doing agility work for an hour a day, and then you have about 2 hours worth of film. All right, so that's the first phase, which lasts 1 to 2 weeks. I mean, you're not even involving a football during that time. You're just kind of building up, and they're building the intensity just to prepare your body. And then they get into like phase 2 and phase 3 and it might stop at phase 3. I don't remember, but it's 11 years ago now, long time ago. All right. But you go through different phases, and everything is to build your body up to prepare. And you're competing against other guys. You're lifting with your bros. All right. And there are certain players who feel like, you know what? Well, I know how to prepare. I have a great trainer. I'm going to do this on my own. I feel like my intensity is a lot better when I'm working out with other guys. When we get done with this about 10 o'clock, I go work out with my guy, Lavelle Hawkins. You know, he played 7 years in the NFL. I go work out with my guy, Tim Brown. He played several years in the CFL. All right. And, you know, we do our boxing workouts. We do our lifting. It's when you're lifting with your guys, there's just a different level of intensity. I can't be the weak link. You know, I got to push myself. I got to get better today. When you're not around your guys and you're just working out, the intensity a little bit lower, and maybe that's safer. I don't know. But there's two guys on the 49ers right now who didn't participate in any of that. There's Trent Williams, there's Brandon Ayuk. And Trent doesn't participate in a lot of the offseason stuff. So I'm not worried about him. And I'm probably not even worried about Brandon Ayuk. But where I am worried about is you do all that, you're building up, you're getting ready for the training camp, and then training camp comes. And then there's another level of intensity. You have to, you know, pass your conditioning test. And then, you know, you have practice every day. You're pushing your body. You're competing, right? You have one-on-ones in front of 1,000, 2,000 fans or whatever the 49ers have hosting there. You're pushing yourself to a certain extent. Then you have a preseason game. Even if you only get 10 plays, that's 10 plays of understanding how to push yourself, you know, 100% on those reps until you get out. And for a couple players for the 49ers, Trent Williams and Brandon Ayuk, they missed everything I just mentioned. They were not a part of any of that. So are there any injury concerns for Brandon Ayuk and Trent Williams entering week one? Guys who have not been here the whole time and really have a week worth of practice, if that, to prepare for a game where now they have to flip that switch and go 100 miles an hour.
Absolutely. I mean, you got to be concerned. This is the same thing we talked about last year when we were talking about Nick Bosa, right? Missing and then coming back on. And I'm like, yeah, it matters. You know, there's to your point, there's a way of graduating the workouts up to where you're football ready. And then you're now in the phase of doing football workouts on the field, but then you also have to grade that up, right? You're doing no tackles, then you're doing tackles, and then you're in preseason games, and then, you know, you're amping up because those are different than just straight up doing, you know, run throughs and things like that. It's a different vibe. You've got to be able to work the body up to it. And if you don't, then you're at risk for soft tissue injury. And soft tissue injuries can be anything from hamstring, you know, to calf, to, you know, foot, you know, all these different things can start to pop up if you don't do that in the right way. So they're at risk. And then, you know, I hate to say it because you just said, we don't have to worry about Trent Williams. That's actually the one I'm worried about, right? Why? Because what's his age? What did I say earlier? Over 35. I worry you're the one that needs to have that graduated practice even more. And you guys know Trent Williams is my favorite 49er. He is the complete foundation of our team. So I do not like the fact that I'm saying this. I don't like the fact that he hasn't had this opportunity. Am I saying he's going to go out there? It's going to be, you know, dire? No, but I'd be wrong if I didn't say I'm concerned about him not having that phase. Now, maybe he's a vet. He knows what the phases are. Hopefully he knows his body. He's doing all the right things. But, you know, without knowing exactly what's happening, I'm going to say I'm concerned.
Yeah, and that's the tough part, I think, because, the veterans, we're so conditioned to just see them playing. And I think a lot of people don't focus on or pay attention to what goes into those guys getting on the field, being on the field, and 100% being the best version of themselves. I think we saw last year you were able to say, Nick Bosa, he signed 49ers, they're ready to go. And then throughout the year, when you look back, you're like, was that the best version of Nick Bosa? Like, was he really good? Of course. But I don't think the 49ers made Nick Bosa at the time the highest paid non-quarterback or highest paid defensive player ever to be good. Oh, man, he was really good. He was really good. No, they paid this guy to be great. And you miss a lot of time like that, it's a little bit harder to be 100% yourself. So we'll keep an eye on those guys, see what happens. And hopefully they hit the ground running, beat the hell out the New York Jets, and all is good. All is good.
Yeah.
Again, I'm joined by Coach Dezi. If you didn't start here, she does a lot of stuff in the medical field and as a physical therapist. And when I have questions about certain things,
Physician
uh,
assistant.
physician assistant. Excuse me, sorry. And I don't know why when I zoomed in, I can't see like we have all our titles and everything up there. All right, but we have Coach Dezi up here, and yeah, when I have questions, I'll ask her like, "Oh, what do you think about this? Or what do you think about that?" I don't even think I told her about the Achilles tendonitis because I was probably a little bit more scared of what she might say.
Well, I haven't told you. I haven't given you the update. My son tore his UCL.
Oh no, he got the Brock Purdy injury.
And then he got the Brock Purdy surgery. Crock, it was crazy. So he went to club championships. He was supposed to just run relays, but coach called him up and said, I think you could win javelin. You might want to do it. So he wanted to do it. He placed second, and he's now deemed an All-American. So he met some goals, but on that last throw, as soon as he threw it, he grabbed his elbow just like Brock Purdy did in the game. And I was just like, no. Long story short, we found the surgeon who does all the surgeries on the Tampa Bay Rays. So shout out Coco Eaton. Dr. Eaton is amazing. And when we went in, guess what I had to ask him about? I'm like, talk to me about internal bracing. And he said,
oh, wow.
Yes, he's the perfect candidate. And so now I can speak so much about the internal bracing, and actually sent you a diagram talking about internal bracing for the Achilles tendons. Because not only are we playing Aaron Rodgers on Monday, who's had his Achilles repaired, but we also are looking for information in terms of Dre Greenlaw's injury. So, but yes, so that's what's going on in the Zevin household. So.
All right, and we have some of the information right here on the internal bracing. So are you able to see that there?
Yes, I can see it. I should have made everything bigger, but this is, so there was an article that was written by a physical therapist about Achilles tendon repair with something called internal bracing. Cam Akers tore his Achilles, which it's incidental that he is a running back. And we were just talking about Christian McCaffrey. But he tore his Achilles in the 2021 season. And he had internal bracing. Internal bracing is a structure that's made out of really tough suture material that when you repair, so if I tear a ligament, right, and I repair it, this goes on top and it kind of reinforces the repair. So if there's any kind of partial re-tear or whatever, the bridge will help support the structure so that you don't have to worry about a failure, so to speak. So this has revolutionized the repairs of all kinds of ligaments. We saw it with Brock Purdy. That's what he had. Typically, that surgery is a Tommy John surgery. It takes 9 to 12 months before you can throw. Brock had the internal brace and was able to throw at 6 months. That's also the recommendations for my son. We're looking to be able to salvage his junior year because he'll be able to throw at 6 months. So this is the data captured on Cam Akers' repair. So if you see on the left side, the reconstruction, that's without the internal bracing. The teal box says with internal bracing. So you can see at 5 weeks in a standard Achilles tendon repair, you're in a boot, and you're in a boot for like 3 months because you want it to scar in. So Cam Akers, though, at 5 weeks out from surgery is not in a boot. He's walking 70% of his weight on a treadmill. He was videotaping himself. He was on a treadmill, out of a boot, 70% weight bearing, walking on a treadmill. 3 months out from surgery without the internal brace, you're just getting out of the boot. Meanwhile, Cam shows a video of him doing ladder drills. 4 months out from surgery with the standard. And I love this. This is a great visual because it really shows you how much it has helped with the internal bracing for return to sport, to return to activity. At 4 months without the internal bracing, weight bearing and strengthening exercises are just being started. Whereas Cam Akers was doing single leg plyos. So he's hopping on one leg and getting it going. And so for 5 months out, the person without the internal brace is just progressing and strengthening, but nowhere near Cam Akers, who's returning to limited practice at that point, 5 months post-op. So this is great news if this is what Dre Greenlaw had, if he had internal bracing. Internal bracing is something that they cannot determine until they know exactly where the tear is and whether or not they're a good candidate for it. So there's a lot of factors that goes into whether you are a candidate or not. In terms of Achilles tendon, there's all kinds of things that are coming out about, oh, you can do this, you can repair it this way, you can repair it that way. So there's just a lot that's available out there. So I'm so hopeful that this is going to work out. Hopefully you never have to deal with this surgery, Croc, but you know, at least if you're going to do it, it's better to do it in these times than maybe 20 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, it was the Achilles injury was essentially a death sentence to your career in years past, and now guys are recovering. And as we see, a year after tearing his Achilles, Aaron Rodgers is taking on the 49ers Monday. All right, so Coach Dezi and I, we wanted to kind of get into some fire on real quick. I know you don't have much more time here, so we'll fire through this, okay? And I'll ask you questions, and maybe I'll give my answers at another time. But we're going to go over Rookie of the Year, Defensive Player of the Year, Offensive Player of the Year, Team MVP, and some of your expectations real quick. So, first, 49ers Rookie of the Year. Who do you have?
Pooney.
Pooney. Okay, Dominic Pooney. You like what you've seen from him so far?
I like what I've seen from him so far. And I have to say, I was just waiting for Trent to sign that contract because I think this is going to be a sexier, offensive line. I'm ready. We know that what the Silverback can do. And now we've got somebody who's up and coming that I think is going to be a great fit on the right side.
All right, awesome. And I think a lot of 49er fans are really excited about what they've seen. You have guys that did great coverage during preseason, making sure that we see everything that Dominic Pooney was doing, and it was awesome. And you see some areas where he's excelling at, and then other areas where he needs to continue to improve. But I feel like everything that we saw was good enough to know this is potentially a long-term starter at the right guard position. All right, here we go. We're getting to 49ers Defensive Player of the Year, but with a twist. It has to be more of a dark horse. So I don't want to hear Nick Bosa. I don't want to hear Fred Warner. Take those guys away. Who is someone that could potentially step up and be Defensive Player of the Year for your San Francisco 49ers?
All right, I'm going to go with Huff. He's going to come back and he's going to show him what's up. I think it's going to be Hufanga.
Ooh, all right, Hufanga coming off of an injury himself. And, it was exciting. You didn't quite know, would he be ready for week one? Didn't have preseason action, but shortly after the preseason ended, boom, you see he's cleared, and Hufanga is right back out there. All right, the same guidelines, Offensive Player of the Year. So, again, it cannot be Brock Purdy. It cannot be Christian McCaffrey. I guess it just can't be those two guys. Anyone else, Offensive Player of the Year, a dark horse guy for your San Francisco 49ers?
This is hard because I feel like we're so stacked. Is it wrong to say George Kittle? Is it wrong? That's not really a dark horse, right? If somebody said George Kittle was the one, I feel like.
Well, I think so. I think when most people think of Offensive Player of the Year, I don't think they go right to a tight end. But what would be some reasons why you think that Kittle may be that guy?
Because Kittle is that guy. He can block, he can catch, he can do whatever is asked of him at the highest level. And I think this is going to be hopefully a more consistent year for him. I do think I see in the comments Ayuk. I would say Ayuk. I wanted to say Ayuk. If you had asked me 3 months ago, I would have said Ayuk, but I wanted Ayuk to have a full offseason with Brock. I do feel like the offense is in a position where they can be more of a threat from the air than leaning so much on the run game, which would be a relief to maybe Christian McCaffrey. But without him and Ayuk having a full offseason, it's been 2 years now. Brock was injured last week, contract holdout last year, and then a contract holdout on Ayuk this year has just not allowed for it to happen for them both to be practicing in the offseason together. I'd love to see that. I would have said Ayuk if that had happened, but I'm going to stick with Kittle.
All right, and you mentioned Brandon Ayuk's name in there, or excuse me, George Kittle. You mentioned George Kittle winning this for you. Did you see the video that the 49ers posted of the players drawing a picture of his face?
No, I need to see that one.
Oh, it's great stuff. They had a few different 49er players, some younger guys it looked like, and they had to draw George Kittle, and it looked as funny. And George Kittle had to grade them on it. So I don't know if they knew he was going to see it, but eventually
I'm
George Kittle,
searching
you
that
see
up.
him watching and seeing how they drew it, and he's just like, not even close. Like, not,
So
it's funny. So make sure you check that out.
okay.
They all got his hair right, though. They all got his hair right. All right, here we go. Moving on. Dark Horse, Team MVP. Team MVP.
And it's got to be a dark horse, huh?
Dark Horse. So
Um,
when I say Dark Horse, I just mean no Brock, because I feel like that's an easy one. No
yeah.
Christian McCaffrey. We'll go no Nick Bosa, no Fred Warner. So you just take those four guys away. 49ers have a ton of other really good players. Who do you think could be the most impactful player overall, aside from those guys?
I'm gonna say Charvarius Ward because
Ooh.
I think I'd like to see a bounce back of the bullies on the defensive side of the ball. You know, I love defense. Brandon Staley's year. Let's see what happens with Charvarius Ward. The runner up, and it's going to be unpopular. I would say Moody because I think a lot of games this year are going to come down to a field goal, and I think he could be the difference maker. We've got some very tough competition this year. Our schedule is not light, and I think it may come down to Money Moody.
Jake Moody. All right, Money Moody, the Dark Horse MVP. And listen, I am not opposed to that. If you go back a couple years ago, the 49ers had Robbie Gold, and he was good as gold in the postseason, making every single one of his kicks. And the kickers, they're not going to get the love that they should get. But I mean, his kick in Green Bay, 0-degree weather, it's snowy. He bangs it right through the goalpost, right through the uprights. I mean, he was just as important to the 49ers runs as anyone. So I am not opposed to putting a kicker on that list. All right, here we go. Last thing for you. Team expectations. Are they just as high as before? Do you think that maybe some vibes were off this offseason? The 49ers take a step back. What do you expect to see from the 49ers, and how do you expect the season to end?
Okay, it has been an emotional.
Oh man, she did the deep sigh. I'm not very confident about how this answer is going to come out, but I'm ready to hear it.
Well, it's been an emotional roller coaster. We've been up, we've been down, contract signing, the injury to Pearsall, the CMC, just right when you think that you feel settled, then it comes out that, oh, it's not just a calf strain, it's Achilles with Christian McCaffrey. And, I did watch the game last night, and let me tell you, Kansas City didn't get any worse in the offseason. They certainly didn't get any worse. So I'm sitting today, if you had asked me maybe the day before, I would have a different reaction, but it's going to be a tough season ahead. I do have them winning about 13 games this year. So I definitely think it's winning football, but can we make it the distance in the postseason? I do have concerns, just like I had said in the beginning of the season. Can Christian McCaffrey's Achilles make it through the entire season and then into the postseason? Is Trent going to be okay with not having an off season? There's some question marks. What's it going to look like with Brandon Staley? And I feel like I don't like the mullet that Kyle Shanahan has, and I don't know if that's a winning hairstyle. So just totally jokes aside on that, but I definitely think we're going to have a winning season. I would expect it to be no different than last year, but there are some question marks.
There are some question marks. And yeah, that was one of the things I touched on with Kansas City 49ers. You saw kind of what they did with their free agency, and they did a really good job of retaining a lot of their players. And they paid some guys. They took care of some guys. They had a lot of guys to pay big dollars to. But I don't know if it felt like, oh, they are a better team than last season. And when you look at Kansas City, a team who heading into the postseason, heading into the Super Bowl, is like, oh, this team isn't as good as they were in 2019 when you faced them. This is a down year for Kansas City. It felt like, oh, if there's any great time to get them, it's right now. And not only did you not get them, they went on, they won the Super Bowl. But as soon as the offseason came and you're like, oh, they got this speedy receiver that's going to help a lacking part of their offense, who scored 2 touchdowns last night. And then they have Suamonteia who's starting that tackle for them, a young guy, and you knew they need to get better on offensive line. It felt like they got better. Like that, it felt like that heading into the game, and then you see the rookies making impactful plays, and you look at the 49ers, and you just can hope that the 49ers hit the ground running, and at least they're playing. Maybe they don't get better, but everybody plays just as good, and you're in the same situation as last year with an opportunity to close things out. And there we're gonna. Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say there is one thing that could change the entire season
Mm.
when Dre Greenlaw comes back.
Oh yeah.
When
Forget
Dre
about Dre
comes
Greenlaw.
back, I will lose my mind because he doesn't just come back as an incredible player. He is the pulse of the defense. Like he can just take, just by him showing up and being on that field, elevator up. Like that could be it. So if we're kind of dragging and things aren't coming together and Dre comes back in October, November, I'm going to say a whole different tune. If Dre's good, I'm going to be like, let's go.
I wonder what I'm pulling up some stats from a former 49er right now. Let me see something. Okay, 2019, 2020. Oh yeah, I'm pretty sure Dre Greenlaw. All right, yep, he did play with them actually both years. So Quan Alexander, remember when Quan Alexander came back from injury for the postseason and the energy it ignited in the 49ers, and you see Dre Greenlaw, who he was drafted in 2019. He was there with Quan Alexander 2019, 2020, and those were the 2 years that Quan Alexander was there. You see a lot of Quan in Dre Greenlaw. So he brings that energy. He brings that attitude. Obviously, he plays off of Fred Warner extremely well. And Dre Greenlaw, can't wait to see you out there on the field.
Yeah, 100%.
All right, that's going to do it for this episode. Coach Dezi, tell everybody where they can find you.
You can find me on Twitter or X, whatever we're calling that, at Coach Dezi. And I'm also on Instagram. And I have my own podcast on Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Girlfriends in Football. I'm joined with my host, who is a physical therapist. And we do have a segment called Sports and Medicine. So if you're interested in any of the injuries happening across the NFL, check us out on Wednesday nights.
All right, and you're simulcasting this right now. So where can people find that?
On YouTube, Girlfriends in Football.
All right, awesome stuff. Coach Dezi, I appreciate you for coming on. And everybody that tuned in today, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. I did have some questions. I'll let you get out of here. I'll answer a couple questions. All right, Coach Dezi, I appreciate you for your time. Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Happy football. Let's get it on Monday.
Woo, woo. All right. That was Coach Dezi. Shout out to Coach Dezi. There are some questions in the chat, and I'm like, let me get to some of these questions. It's Pineapple. Yo, Crock, who do you got? Mater Day or Bishop Gorman? He's talking about California high school football. Matter of fact, two of the best high school football teams in the nation, if not the best. All right. I watched Mater Day's last game or first game. I didn't watch this week 2. They were dominant. Bishop Gorman, I said California. Bishop Gorman, excuse me, they're in Las Vegas. Bishop Gorman is Las Vegas. So by association, I gotta take Mater Day. But from everything I hear about Bishop Gorman, the how they run things there at that program, awesome stuff. Awesome stuff. So, but yeah, taking Mater Day. All right, Stephen Ramsey says, "What up, Croc? My nephew and the Ruffers play in Rogers, Arkansas. I lived in Arkansas for a few years. Where is Rogers, Arkansas? Because Arkansas has a city that's like it's like the if there's like a capital of racist towns, it's that, and it's in Arkansas. I don't think it's called Rogers. Is it Rogers? There's a town in Arkansas that's like black people stay out. Black people stay out of there, and they're not messing with us at all. There, it's like a real thing. But shout out to nephew out there though. Play it out in Rogers, Arkansas. All right, then we got Robbie. He says, Crock Hella camp here in Bakersfield, California. Dude is hella chill and a good ass person. Hey man, appreciate it. I appreciate it. That camp I went to was I did not throw the camp. I was a part of the camp. There were some other former NFL guys with more experience than myself. Actually, some current guys too at that time. Oh man, what was that? 2017, maybe 2018. That was a little while ago. That's what's up, man. That's what's up. Harrison, Arkansas. All right, Rogers, Harrison, Arkansas. You won't catch me there. You will not catch me there. Eric Dane in the chat says, Crock, Jalen Ramsey just got a huge extension. I saw that. Something about 3 years, $75 million for the Dolphins. Do you think he's still one of the best cornerbacks in the league? All I've seen so far is that he is. Now, here's the tough thing with the cornerback position. I'd say any position, any players. If you're not watching them week in and week out, it's hard to know like how good somebody is. Now, obviously, there's certain players you can watch and be like, man, this guy's good. But when you start to have to split hairs, I know this. I know Ramsey is a damn good cornerback. And he's legit. He's legit. All right. Is he still one of the best? I'm not 100% sure because I don't watch enough of his games close enough. But he's still a damn good cornerback in this league. There was a conversation about what's his name? Steven Ruiz, a guy that does quarterback rankings. And according to his rankings, he had Brock Purdy 17th best quarterback in the league. And he has a whole write-up. He has like his whole like process that he goes through. And a lot of people killed him for the take. And I think more so because he had Geno Smith ahead of Brock Purdy. And I kind of responded, right? And this is no slight at anybody. Just for me in general. When I hear anybody give a list or opinion on anything, my initial reaction isn't to shoot it down or say that it's trash or any of that. I just want to know where they're coming from. All right. Where they're coming from with this opinion. Unless it's like just outlandish, right? If it's outlandish and it's not like clickbaity or something like that, you got some stuff that's clickbaity, but just if it's a well thought out opinion and well researched and you put it out there, and if it doesn't agree with everybody, there's gonna be a lot of people that don't agree that's gonna say, oh, this is BS, this is trash. And most people think that most lists are trash. But when I read it, I felt like what he was doing, I wanted to get that part. What he was doing was removing everything kind of around the player. So now you have a standalone quarterback, right? And he's going off of ability, he's going off of accuracy, and not like I don't know how he exactly got to this, but playing in rhythm, playing in time, like he's going, like he has this whole thing where the way I looked into it, the way I read it, if you have great players, like that doesn't matter. It's solely about like the quarterback. And it's hard to explain that, right? Because with most quarterbacks in the league, if you let's say Trevor Lawrence, it's very easy to say, well, Brock Purdy's been better than Trevor Lawrence. Like, what? Brock Purdy, please play better. Now, if you go around the league and you ask, NFL coaches, offensive coordinators, who would you rather have, Brock Purdy or Trevor Lawrence? I think 99% of them would say Trevor Lawrence. And Trevor Lawrence hasn't played as well as Brock Purdy. But again, once you remove their situations, if you just have a draft of quarterbacks, I think there will be a decent amount. I don't know if it'll be 16 or 17, but there will be a lot of quarterbacks that go ahead of Brock. Like if you can say, I'm going to take this quarterback and put him in the world's greatest situation or position. And we're talking about good quarterbacks, right? We're not talking about the unknowns, right? We're not talking about the Trey Lances of the world where you don't know what he's going to be. But quarterbacks right now in the NFL that like, okay, got this list of quarterbacks. You can have any quarterback in the NFL and place him on this team. What order would those quarterbacks go in? And I think as it pertains to Brock, who has done things very well, he might get bumped on the list if you're talking about the 49, bumped up on the list if you're talking about the 49ers because you know what that looks like already in the offense. But I think there will be several other quarterbacks, several. When I say several, I mean 10, 11 quarterbacks that I don't want to say easily go ahead of him, but go ahead of him if you have your pick at any quarterback in the NFL to place on the team. So that's how I was looking at his rankings. When you look at everything and you take the player out and it's just a player standing by himself and you get to pick and you're like, this guy does this, he does this, he does this, he doesn't do this, but this guy does this and this guy does this, XYZ. Which quarterbacks ultimately would you rather have? And that was how I looked at how he did his rankings. And Brock wasn't high. And Geno was ahead of him. Now, Geno, I don't know, right? I know what Geno looks like against the 49ers. Hasn't been great. You know what I'm saying? But if you say, all right, Geno, I'm going to take you out of this offense. I'm going to put you in a great offense. I'm going to put you in a great offense, in a great situation, in a great play. What would it look like? And Geno actually does a lot of things very, very well. It gets overshadowed because 49ers kick his ass every year. I mean, like I don't think Geno's ever beat the 49ers. So if you and you can't, but let's say you flip those two 49ers losses and flip them into wins. What does Geno look like now? He's a playoff quarterback every year, right? With that team, has a different offensive coordinator this year. He's had to go through a coordinator change. So those are things I just try to look at from an unbiased position. And there were people that they were upset with that. But anyways, I say all that to say with the Jalen Ramsey thing, you're asking, is he still one of the best in the league? A lot of guys around the league, I don't quite watch close enough. Kansas City Chiefs, Baltimore Ravens, we watched them last night. It might be 4 weeks before I watch them again. Just because they're just not on TV, or maybe they're not, maybe they're on TV, but it's at the same time as 49ers. So I'm so locked in on the 49ers. All right. So, there might be 4 games this year that I really get to catch and really watch and watch their cornerbacks. If I'm not watching every single play, every single game, I can tell you if a guy is good or not by just watching on TV, but how good and how much better is he than the other guys? A good question. Steven Draper. Crock, what's a good place to eat at in Stockton? I'm going to be there this weekend. I'll be there too. Hey, if you'll be there tonight, let me know. I'll put you on the list, get you to a high school football game. Edison High School versus we play in the hood. You know what I'm saying? You gotta go to the south side of Stockton, but yeah. Good place to eat at. I guess it depends on what kind of food you're looking for. If you're talking about Mexican food, my favorite Mexican spot, La Palma, is off of Miracle Mile. All right, La Palma, that's my favorite Mexican spot. Also, if you want a little bit more like upper scale Mexican food, you go to Octavio's. It's off of Ben Holt in that Marina Market Village. All right, Octavio's. And so that's Mexican food. You know what? This is what I'll do. Go to my guy's Instagram page. All right, I'll put his Instagram page in the chat. Shout out to my guy, Derek Graves. All right, D Graves. He's also a coach. All right, so D Graves, he coaches high school football here in Stockton. Shout out to my dog D Graves. Matter of fact, Xavier Worthy. He coached Xavier Worthy for a bit, 7-on-7, Elevate 209. Xavier Worthy played some tournaments for us, and he was like, Crock, best receiver I've ever seen. All right, but go to D Graves' page. It's at D Graves, and just scroll through D Graves 7, and just scroll through. You want food? You want Stockton food? Go to D Graves' page, and he does cheap meal Sundays every Sunday, and he goes to a different restaurant in Stockton, and everything you're looking for, he might have. I mean, he posted something yesterday. I mean, come on, hold on. Look at this. Hold on. I don't know if y'all can see, you can't really see it, but it's like a dessert. And I mean, it's just ridiculous. Oh man, you can't really see it. I'm sorry. I got this thing that's blinding. But anyways, they got some good food. Go to D Graves page, man. D Graves, he gonna get you right with all the food stuff. Stockton. But all right, that's gonna do it for this episode, man. I appreciate everybody. I gotta get my mind right. I'm finna go hit the weights with the Brodies. You feel me? Then I gotta shave, get right for this football game I'm coaching in tonight. And yeah, Underdog Fantasy, promo code Crocky. We live, we direct, we getting active with it. Follow me on Twitter at Crocky209. It's not Eric Crocker. At Crocky209 on Twitter. You can see my posts and stuff like that. But that's gonna do it, man. I'm out, man. Hey, I'll see y'all Monday. Peace.